I was very fond of the faculty there. I think my kids were taught well. They learned how to learn, how to read, how to prepare.
I'm Agnes Stowicki, Managing Editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private and independent schools to bring you insights into school programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administration. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
Okay, so understand that I am the parent of two kids who went to Thetford Academy, and we also later hosted an international student. So in Thetford, if you live in Thetford Academy, although it's a private school, serves as the public school for the town of Thetford and for several towns around it. My daughter actually considered going elsewhere, which would have been out of pocket for us, but we looked at Northfield Mount Herman, the Phillips Exeter Academy, where I had gone, and Deerfield Academy. And she also did a day at Hanover High School, which is a very good public high school across the river. And after doing those things, she decided Thetford Academy was where she wanted to be. Well, they both had the advantage. I'll talk about my kids first. They both had the advantage of having gone to school in Thetford from kindergarten on. So when they moved into Thetford Academy at seventh grade, they knew almost all of their peer group. And so that made it easy. At the same time, I mean, middle school is a tough time for everybody, right? It's a really awkward age. And Thetford Academy does a really nice job of making all kids feel like they're part of the fabric of the community. And, you know, some kids are into robotics and some are into basketball and some are into drama and some are into film. And they find their niche. And those are not mutually exclusive groups. You'll have jocks who are also theater nerds. I mean, I coach indoor track. I've coached indoor track for about 10 years. And one of my best athletes ever who competed in college was also avidly on the robotics squad. So you don't end up in a silo at Thetford Academy. That's hard to answer with a single answer. My daughter is an admissions officer at Carleton College in Minnesota. And she went to Carleton as an undergrad, and she's now associate dean of admissions. And she travels a lot and goes to high schools all over the country and in South America and Central America. And she never realized how beautiful the campus is until she started going elsewhere. I mean, and it really is, you see it every day and you kind of just, you take it for granted. It's a gorgeous campus. And I think that's one thing that she would say. I think my son, who is much more artsy, who is in the musicals, I think he liked the fact that, as I mentioned before, people aren't in silos. You can hang out with the theater nerds and the jocks. And it's a pretty judgment-free environment. And you feel safe there. I was very fond of the faculty there. I think my kids were taught well. They learned how to learn, how to read, how to prepare. And, you know, by and large, the teachers did so in a way that was both demanding but sensitive. If they had problems, the teachers were responsive to that. The teachers pushed them when they needed to be pushed, and they backed off when they needed to back off. But I was very pleased with the academic experience that both my kids had. So, as I mentioned, we hosted a Swedish student after our kids left. I wanted to stay kind of in the TA community, and so she came as a senior, and I shouldn't have been surprised, but I guess I was surprised at how easily she fit in almost from the first day. And it didn't hurt. She was a basketball player, so she immediately had this peer group of basketball girls. But she was an international student. Thankfully, her English was very good, but she was from Stockholm. So you have this city girl from the Nordic countries coming to Vermont, where she'd never been before, and fit in. It was a seamless experience of becoming part of the community almost immediately. And I thought that would have taken a little more time. And so I was pleasantly surprised at how quickly that happened. So I think respect, tolerance. I don't even like the word tolerance anymore, because tolerance is like you tolerate bugs. So you will have kids who are non-binary, and I've coached them. And in some schools, even today, that's very hard for some kids to feel like they're accepted and they're part of the fabric of the community. And that's not an issue at TA. And I think they do a very nice job. It is a welcoming, safe environment for kids. Demographically, Thetford is an interesting place, and it's one of the few places left where we are not, sadly, ethnically diverse, but we are socioeconomically diverse. And so we have people whose parents are doctors and professors, and we have people whose parents are working folk. And we have some kids who are economically marginalized. And again, I think TA does a really good job of incorporating everybody into the experience. And so I don't remember the question now, but it led me to this. The tip. So yeah, there is no typical parent or family, because we do have this diversity. And my wife and I, we could have chosen to live in Norwich, Vermont, which is like the most affluent, it is the most affluent town in Vermont, or the second most affluent town in Vermont. Across the river from Norwich is Hanover, New Hampshire, home of Dartmouth College, an extraordinarily affluent place. And we could have done that. And our children would, I have nothing against Hanover High School. It's a very good school, but it does not have that degree of diversity. It's not as interesting a place, frankly. Well, so my son was in the musical. They have a spring musical every year, and he was in the musical all 6 years. And his senior year, they did Les Mis, which is a particularly challenging work. And I know that I'm biased, okay, but that was the best high school musical I have ever seen. It was really good, and the director had the luxury of having a number of kids who really could sing, and it was tears coming to my eyes at the final curtain. But I think he will tell you that he's most proud of the effort and energy and results that came out of his work on the musicals all 6 years. When they started, we didn't even have a theater. The performances were on a stage that was in the gym, and it just, there was no lighting and there was no acoustics, and we sat on folding chairs. And we now have the Martha J. Rich Theater, which is really nice, somewhat intimate, but perfect size for Thetford Academy for performing. For my daughter, she emerged from TA. She was not yet fluent in Spanish, but it really laid the foundation for her. And she is now, she travels professionally to Central and South America, and also to Brazil. So she's learned Portuguese as well, but it laid the foundation for her for her career, in particular, her interest in Latin American studies, which is what she majored in college. So the administration has changed since my kids were there, but I'm still in touch with the current administration because I still coach. So, primarily the athletic director and also the head of school, whose son I coach and who I've just dealt with personally. By the way, I was also on the school board in Thetford for about 25 years, which is separate from the board of trustees for Thetford Academy, but there was a great deal of interaction between the two. My experience was if you had a problem and you addressed it to the appropriate person, the problem would get addressed. There were times when you couldn't solve it or there were just differences of opinion, but even there, it was done very charitably and diplomatically. So the short answer to your question is responsive. And they care about their students. They care about an institution that's been around for over 200 years. Okay, so one would be just, it is a safe place for your kid, intellectually, physically, emotionally. The campus is beautiful, and you are welcome to try anything and everything. And the kids are great. They really are. I mean, and again, I coach track, which is different than I coached basketball and soccer in the past, and I don't know if you have any experience with basketball and soccer parents who are different people, but there are no prima donnas on the track team or on the cross country team. The kids care about each other. The really good kids don't lord it over the other kids that they're really good, even though everyone knows they're really good. So what did I say? So one is just an environment of safety and security and compassion. Two is you can get involved in anything and everything. And three is, you're going to get a good education out of it. And when the Thetford Academy diploma, that means something. Whether your next step is trade school or you want to go to a four-year college or you want to just go to work right out of high school, that's a meaningful piece of paper. Well, so it's all about fit, right? It is not the perfect school for everybody. I think it's the perfect school for a lot of people. I think it would be very helpful to spend some time on campus to interact with the kids. If you're the parent, interact with some of the faculty, interact with the staff. I would particularly suggest, so Thetford Academy hosts an enormous cross-country meet every year, and we've done it for 35 years now, which is called the Woods Trail event. And runners from Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, they just descend on Thetford. And there are probably 1,500 kids from 8 states. But just about every student at Thetford Academy is a volunteer on that day, doing one thing or another. The event runs so smoothly. The Thetford Academy Alumni Association runs an enormous cooking, a tent where they're barbecuing things. There's music, it's colorful. That, I think, epitomizes Thetford Academy in so many different ways. Just the joy, the spirit of volunteerism, the welcoming community. Come to the Woods Trail and then tell them that their children should be running cross country and track.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.